Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to have you with us, and I'm very pleased to be joined by Samar Owais. She is a SaaS and e-commerce email copywriter and strategist. She knows how to write emails that help you make sales, and that's one of the things we're going to be talking about with Samar today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us, and I also want to thank Emily Ryan, another person well known out there in the email world. She highly recommended you as a great person all around in email.
Yeah, Emily's great. I love her Sunday newsletter that goes out. It's like there are some email links in there, but the rest of it is just a perfect round off to a weekend where sometimes you just want to browse, look at cool stuff. Her 9 things, she'll send you a list of cool things she saw across the week, and it's just such a joy to not have to do my own browsing and just sometimes look at funky t-shirts, cool mugs, and an email hack here and there. And so it's one of my favorite newsletters out there.
I have to concur. Now, I've been been reading some of your emails lately, and as a writer, what would you say has been one of the best teachers for you?
I'm going to say really dissecting the copywriters I admire, their work. And so early on in my career, Copyblogger was such a huge source of inspiration for me. And yes, their content was great, but the caliber of writing there, I would notice certain things there used to be a writer there called Demian Farnworth. And through reading his work, and I'm like, he's such a good writer. Why do I love reading his posts? And then I would sit down and take notice of things, right? And I would notice a lot of times he would introduce an idea in the intro, and then he would bring us back to it in the conclusion and kind of close the loop on that thought. And it would just create such a perfect package of hey, I've got all this info, and now there's a neat little bow tie on it, and I feel like it's contained. And so I would notice these little quirks and tricks and copywriting tactics that other writers would use, and I would then practice it in my own work. And so for me, just observing other copywriters' work has been a great teacher.
Would you say you enjoy writing?
I'm going to say yes, for myself.
Yeah. What is the best recipe for confidence when you're a writer?
Failing. It's a recipe for confidence, no matter what you're doing. But for copy or writing in general, failing. The more you do it, get those bad, shitty drafts out of your system. And then when you write that piece of really good copy or that really good email or that really good web copy page, it is just such a joy. I don't know about other writers, but when I write a really good piece of copy after laboring over it for hours or days and sometimes weeks, I go back again and again and read it just to remind myself how good I am and how good that piece of copy was. That really, I was I still go back to, I'll come across certain things that I've written a few years ago, or come across some of my earlier emails when I'm sending somebody my samples or portfolio, and I'd be like, this is still good work. And so there's residual confidence coming in also that, hey, I was good then, even when I didn't think I was, and that I'm on the right track and I've improved so much. So I feel like confidence for me comes from doing the work.
Now, something I want to go back and talk about a little bit is you studied with the original conversion copywriter, Joanna Weeb.
Yes.
What would you say was one of the more valuable things that you learned from Joanna Weeb?
Okay, so I'm going to say that Joe, I didn't study copywriting with Joe. I studied business with Joe.
Oh, business.
Joe had a business course called 10X Freelance Copywriter. And it teaches you all the things about running your own business, building your own authority, how to market yourself, how to work with clients, all of that. And so the one thing that Joe taught me was this phrase that she often says to students who are hesitating, who know what they need to do, but are hesitating to do it because they're scared or shy or have like this mindset issues. And for me, it was put your big girl pants on. And she said it to me so often that it's kind of like it's always in my subconscious now. Like every time I am stepping out of my comfort zone and I don't want to, or every time I'm doing something or I'm doing it for the first time maybe, and I'm crap at it, and I don't want to do it because I've tasted what being an expert feels like, but I know it's important for my business or my growth, and I wouldn't say voice because she never said it to me, but the Slack channels and the emails and all the other places that she said it to me, it rings in my head. Put your big girl pants on and just do the damn thing. And I do it because when your mentor's voice is in your head that often, you do it. And especially because you know it works, right? And I always say, because I do the work so often, and that's kind of been my thing for growing my business also, I realize that it doesn't necessarily get easier or better. But once you faced your fear, it's not that it's less scary the next time. It's just that you have survived once and you know you can survive it again, or you can face that fear again at the very least. And eventually there will come a time when you do things long enough that you don't fear them anymore, because then it becomes muscle memory. Like for me, I would say the perfect example of that would be discovery calls. So when I started, 2018 was the year that I took my business full time, pivoted into email marketing, and started getting on video calls with clients. Before then, I was a content writer and I would conduct my business through email mostly because I was very shy. And I'm still, I would say, socially awkward. And I don't know how to make small chit chat. I'm very awkward with that, right? And I had all the other head trash that comes with being a very visible Muslim copywriter, working in the US market. And so I had all that head trash around me and I did not want to get on video calls. And then that was the first time Joe told me to put my big girl pants on. And the first discovery call was so bad. I was reading off a script. You could tell that I was reading off a script. I was shaking. It was just, overall, it was one of the worst calls I've ever had. And it was one of my first. But doing that, that was the first time I realized, okay, I've done it. I never want to do it again. But if I have to, I know I can. And so that kind of has become my, the thing I do whenever I'm scared or whenever I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. Just face it once.
I'm sure what you just said is going to resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people like to talk about the really great emails. There's even this website, reallygoodemails.com.
Yeah.
But I want to tell you about an email that I got a few days ago. Every now and then I'll notice one, and I won't name the company, but it's so bad that it's almost worth mentioning as an example. So I signed up. This is a money newsletter, and their welcome email was, "You will now begin receiving emails from us, TY," which I think means thank you. I think they meant thank you. Yeah. This is a big company. And I thought, wow, I think they missed it. So how can someone make welcome emails better?
Oh, God. Okay. So the easiest way to make a welcome email better is to look at where people are signing up. You're obviously making them some kind of a promise. You are obviously making some kind of an offer to encourage people to sign up. And so just continue that conversation. Make it about the reader. So people signing up for a money newsletter are obviously signing up for a bunch of reasons, right? They want to educate themselves. They want to do better at finances. Maybe they want to save more money. Maybe they want to invest more, be smarter investors, whatever the newsletter is about. Just reiterate all the benefits of reading those newsletters and kind of just remind them that what the decision they made to sign up was the right decision. Make them feel good about the action that they've just taken. So I think I just mentioned 2 or 3 things. One, continue the conversation that started on the opt-in form or the landing page or the Facebook ad, wherever they're signing up from. B, make them feel good about themselves so that they know that this is the right decision to make. And C, deliver whatever promise you made. So if you promise them money-saving tips, give them 1 quick tip, right? So that they can get a taste of what's to come.
Very good advice. Something that I see a lot, especially different email marketers conversing with one another, people that are trepidatious about sending too many emails. What can you tell us about how often to send an email to your list?
Oh, this is a good question. So at the minimum, once a week, please. Because so many clients or brands will come to me and say, we don't want to offend our subscribers. But what they fail to account for is that when somebody subscribes to your newsletter, they're actually telling you, I want to hear from you. Tell me about your business. Tell me about your products. Tell me more about whatever the topic is of the newsletter. Right? So they're implicitly giving you permission to email them. And if you don't email them regularly, you're squandering an opportunity. And so I always say, at a minimum, land in your subscribers' inbox once a week, unless your newsletter is like, hey, here's everything that happened this month, right? Then obviously, if it's a monthly newsletter, you don't want to be sending every week. But if it's like a general newsletter, send it once a week minimum. If you're an e-commerce brand, you can totally up it to 2-3 times a week. And if you've got a big list and you've got a lot of segmentations, you can do 5 days a week. But the thing about irritating your subscribers is that they will not get irritated or angry or mark you as spam if you're sending the right message to the right person at the right time, right? So if somebody signed up for the welcome, just signed up to your newsletter, they should be receiving the welcome emails and nothing else. If somebody's just bought something from you, they should be receiving the post-purchase emails, and they should not be receiving any other offer emails until they have been delivered that one product that they ordered from you. So just make sure that the customer journey or the email journey is properly mapped out so that you can send the right email to the right person at the right time.
So much of what people are trying to do, and you can read this again and again and again, hey, be sending high value content.
Oh, yeah.
What is the best way to create this high value content that everybody wants?
Oh, I feel like people make it harder than it needs to be. So first of all, every business out there is creating content, right? All you have to do is repurpose it for email. So if you're an e-commerce brand, you're doing social media posts, you have testimonials, you have product stories, landing pages, you have user-generated content that you can repurpose into emails. Secondly, if personal brand like me, all you have to do is talk about the way you do things. And that's a lot of times that's enough, because high value content is what? It's teaching somebody something, right? But it doesn't mean that it has to be so jam-packed with value that you give it all away in one single email. So keep it concise to one idea per email, and everything is connected. We all have so many ideas. We all have so many things that irritate us about our industries, right? Write about that. Repurpose podcast interviews, like this one. Half of this stuff will get turned into my newsletters, because all the questions that you're asking me are great questions, are questions that I know other people also have. And so I will turn those into my newsletters. Or I'll turn them into my LinkedIn posts, or I will have an idea for a LinkedIn post and realize, oh, I haven't written an email about it in a while or at all. And I will then turn it into an email. So everything is connected and everything is a content idea.
Great answer, but also you took the intimidation, because even asking that question, I felt intimidated. High value content, but you you put that in such a way, hey, it is possible. You don't have to give them everything you know. I love that answer. Is it more common that an email is too serious, like that you will begin receiving emails from us, or is it more common that an email is too silly?
It's more common that an email is too serious. Not in the form of you'll start receiving emails from us, but from the perspective of the email just being all about the business and not about the subscriber. So they're too focused on the wrong side of the screen, right? So I always say that you could have a list of 100,000 subscribers, but the person reading your email on the other end of the screen is just one. And it doesn't matter whether you're a B2C business or a B2B business, you are still sending your email. The person reading your email is just one. And so if you don't focus on them, it's not going to connect you with your audience. So I would say a lot of times people make the email about themselves and not about their subscribers, which is where the serious part comes in.
Something I've noticed in watching and listening to some of the other interviews that you've done, you've commented a few times on something that I think is a very interesting point. The email marketer is the one who sets the expectations. Such an interesting point. Why is it so important?
So as email marketers, we know we kind of sit in the middle, right? We're the middleman between the business and the subscriber or the customer. And I always say that I may be working with a brand, a SaaS company or an e-commerce brand, but I'm advocating for your customers. Because when you put them first, when you focus on their email experience or customer experience, it's just going to serve my client better. And the reason that is because I'm very open about the fact that founders have a lot on their plate. Marketing teams are overwhelmed with things they need to do. Not everybody has the bandwidth to think about email in the way that I do, because it's my job. And so for me, I get to set very realistic expectations in terms of timeline, in terms of performance, in terms of the metrics to track, because I have been doing this stuff for a while. And when I work with a brand, my entire job is to take the pressure off the founder or the marketing team and then just manage it for them, right? So a lot of times, because everybody's heard that stat, right? For every $1 you spend, you can expect anywhere between $36 to $44 of return or ROI. And that number changes every single year. I don't know what it is this year, but it yo-yos between 36 and 44, right? And so they expect we just need to start sending emails and we'll get these great returns. That's not true. To get that ROI, you need to do a bunch of things right. Otherwise, it's just like sending emails for the sake of sending emails. And part of my job is setting expectations that way. Like, hey, yes, you want an onboarding sequence. That's great. But creating that onboarding sequence, doing the customer research that we need to do, figuring out what their trigger moments are, what is going to convince them to become paying users. All of that takes customer research, and customer research takes time. It's going to take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks if you're lucky, 6 to 8 weeks if you're not, right? And then comes the email strategy part, then comes the email copywriting part. So we're looking at anywhere between 10 to 12 weeks of a project. So if you want onboarding emails, you cannot expect to get it within 2 weeks or a month, because there's so much involved that goes into it. Similarly, if you are, let's say, if you're selling products, if you're an e-commerce brand, even then, it will take time. There are so many other factors involved. When we set up a welcome email flow, it depends so much on how much traffic you're getting on your website and how much of it is converting into newsletter subscribers, right? If your list isn't growing, and I can set up the perfect welcome flow for you, but it will not convert if not enough people are signing up for your newsletter. And so all of these things I have to talk about and set expectations. And then I say, once all your lifecycle emails are set up, it is going to take time for your emails to gain traction, because we are also getting our subscribers used to listening from us or hearing from us, and getting them used to reading our emails and expecting our emails, right? A lot of times when I do an email strategy, and I'm doing the content plan for like the weekly newsletter for a brand, we're coming up with themes and we're figuring out what themes will be relevant to your subscribers. So it's summers in the US right now. We're going to start the back to school season very soon for brands that serve that market, right? And so that's not just school bags and stationery and books. It's also snacks. It's also Lunchables, right? And it's also a lot of other things that people need. So there is all of that goes into it. And so I always say email marketing takes time. So whenever you think you need emails by, the best time to approach a marketer is 3 months before you need them.
Very, very interesting stuff. We learn so much from our failures, yet it's so often that people are afraid to try something new. When it comes to email, has there ever been a time when you tried something a little bit risky with email? What happened when you did that?
Oh, yeah. I had an e-commerce brand reach out to me maybe 2 months before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And they said, we've been in business 3 years. We haven't grown our list. We've been selling through ads and getting traffic on our landing pages and ads. And we've got a list of 25,000 customers that we want to send out a Black Friday promo to. And I was like, okay. And they were like, we know we don't have a list, but these are people who, were automatically added to the list. These are people who knew that they were being signed up, all of that. And we'd love to sell to them. And it's like, that's great. It's all in the email strategy. I'll create a strategy for you that will engage your subscribers. And then we'll, sell them. So I created a whole email strategy for them that was warming up their list, that was creating a wait list, that was making an early bird offer to the wait list, and then a proper offer to the actual offer to the entire list, all of that. And I was like, we've got 2 months, we'll be fine. But I didn't consider how hard it is to engage a cold list and how long it takes, right? And so we did not make any money on that promotional campaign. We broke even. And I am so thankful we broke even. But honestly, I consider that a failure on my part because my client was able to only cover the expense. So they paid for the designer, they paid for the strategy and the copy with me and a bunch of other stuff. And when I checked in with them to see how they've done, they said we broke even, we covered, we didn't get a loss, right? But I was so ashamed of myself for being so cocky, for like telling my client we could do this, and then being faced with the cold, harsh reality of how hard it is to engage an audience. And that email takes time. And that was one of the lessons that I learned, that no matter how great your strategy is, it will not work if you are not engaging your email subscribers regularly.
Is there a copywriting formula that you use in email that you think works best?
I'm going to say yes. But I don't know if I'd call it a formula, right? So whenever I'm writing an email, I have a 3-point checklist that is always at the back of my hand. It's one idea or message per email, one reader, and one type of call to action, right? So one message or idea per email means that we are keeping our emails laser focused. If it's a sales email, that's the entire focus, right? What is that one sales angle that I'm going for? And I will stick to it. If it's a content email, what is that piece of content or idea that I want to share? And I will stick to it. And my emails are typically very, very short. So if it's my newsletter's emails done right, those emails are typically less than 300 words because I am sharing one idea. And 300 words is more than enough to get people to start thinking about your idea, right? One reader is, again, that person on the other side of the screen. So yes, I have a list of a small list, but let's have a list of 2,000 people, right? And I'm sending that email to 2,000 people, but I need to write it in a way where the person reading it feels like I'm talking directly to them. And it's not that I'm talking to a group of people, just that. right? And when I say one type of call to action, I mean that your email can absolutely and should have multiple CTAs. Like one could be a hyperlink, one could be a button, whatever, but it all needs to lead to the same place. Because the more different types of call to actions we include, the more we dilute the conversion of the main call to action that we have. And so by all means, send more emails if you have more than one thing to ask for people. But in a single email, it needs to be laser focused on your one idea or message. It needs to be personalized for that person who's reading that email, and it needs to lead to one place, and it needs to ask for that one action, whether that's to read a blog post, whether that's to buy a product, or whether that's to download something, just one type of CTA.
You have a way of teaching a concept with great economy of words, which I greatly respect. At ZeroBounce, our bread and butter, of course, is email validation, removing bad data from email lists. Would you say that many of your clients, are they aware of things like data decay, how quickly an email list could go bad? I mean, it was a couple months ago, a lady, she told me, I have a list. I sent an email the last time was 3 years ago. Do you find people are aware of things like this?
I find a lot of people have let their list go stagnant. And when somebody says, and they say things like, I haven't emailed my list in a few years, my first instinct is to tell them to scrap it and start anew. Because in 3 years, your business is probably very different from what it looked 3 years ago. You have changed topics, you've changed niches, all of that. But the other thing that I want to do is then tell them to run a re-engagement sequence, right? So from I'm not a deliverability expert. It's one of the things that I always say tell clients they need to talk to an expert about. But you have to weigh your options. Is it better for us to re-engage a list that is that cold and hurt our list health, which at that point has already been hurt, right? But if you send after a 3-year break, you're going to be marked as spam. Your domain is probably not warmed up. All of those things, right? Or is it better to start anew at that point? And so it's one of those it then becomes a business decision for my client. What do they want to do? But let's say they decide that, we want to try and keep as many of these people as we can. Now, the technical side of it could be different, where we say, like, get a new domain, transfer everybody, things like that. But the other part is the part that I specialize in, is the email strategy for it. What is our strategy going to be to re-engage those subscribers? And the first thing we want to do is we want to call everybody who's not interested. So you remind them who you are, you tell them what your newsletter is about, and you set expectations for what's to come, and then you give them the option to either to click to stay or click to unsubscribe. And then you take it from there.
Now, if anybody out there is resonating with what they're hearing, you're going to be speaking live at Litmus, correct? In Boston?
Yes.
And
in September.
September, right. Tell us, you have a website. Anybody out there, what is the website?
It's samarowes.com. But the newsletter is the fastest way to get all my thoughts on emails, which is emailsdoneright.com.
Emailsdoneright.com. Okay. Is there anything else coming up on the horizon with Samar?
Oh, lots of things. So I'm speaking at Litmus in September. Then I'm traveling to Mexico to attend a conference where I will be learning things. Because the last quarter of the year is always where I'm planning for the next year. And I find that a well-picked conference with people who are ahead of you in business or are in the same industry as you will help you figure out things a lot faster. So when I finally started going to conferences, I realized one was for networking and speaking, one was for this stuff, like doing the work. And so the last quarter is always where I'm thinking about what I'm going to do next year. Last year, when I did this work, I realized I wanted to slow down. And so this year, I've really slowed down. Like, I've continued doing podcasts and webinars and interviews and workshops, but it's I was overworked, exhausted, so my client workload has really slowed down this year. I teach courses about email strategy for both SaaS and e-commerce, and I was launching last year. I launched that course 3 times. It's a live training cohort based, and so there's a lot of one-on-one involvement. And I was tired this year. I was like, I'm not launching a course, but because I left teaching, I started feeling angsty, and I was like, you know what? What if I just do a master class? And so I did a master class, enjoyed it. But then I was like, you know what? This was it. I'm done. So I'm taking it slow this year. Nothing on the horizon other than really gearing up and preparing for next year. So I've had my year of slow, of relaxation, of working at leisure. And now I'm, gearing up back to taking on more client work, teaching more courses, all of the fun stuff.
Well, Samar, thank you so much for spending time with us and sharing all these concepts. It's not just the information. I think it will be also a great encouragement to everybody out there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, Samar, thank you again. If I can ever be of service, please do not hesitate.
Absolutely.
All right. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.